Hi, I'm Faraz Khan from iTrack Recruitment, and welcome to the Low Code Podcast, where we're dedicated to increasing awareness and appreciation of the power of low code. In this podcast, we'll hear from developers about their career journeys and how low code has enabled them to achieve new levels of success and innovation. So let's go. Hi, Kilian. How are you?
Yeah, doing well, doing great. How about yourself, Faraz?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Can't complain. Thank you for agreeing to take part in the podcast.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I think you're someone I've seen a lot in the last few years, followed a while. So it's good to kind of have you on and get to share your view and knowledge on low code. So yeah, thanks for that. Do you want to get started by telling us a bit about yourself, where you're from, a bit of your background?
Yeah, sure. Well, I tend to talk a lot, so I think, but that would be good for the podcast. But
Perfect for the
let,
podcast, yes.
let me, yeah, let me start with some personal stuff. So
Sure.
I live in Rotterdam, the Netherlands, like a small country in Europe. I work in Utrecht primarily. It's like another city. It's, I don't know, an hour drive from where I live. And I've basically lived my entire professional career in Rotterdam and worked in Utrecht. So I've been commuting like crazy for the past 12 years.
Yeah.
I'm married, I think 10 or 11 years or something by now.
Your wife would be happy that you don't exactly know what it
Yeah,
is.
well, it's somewhere in August. No, I think it's 11 years
Yeah.
this year, or it will be in August.
Yeah.
I have a little a boy running around the house who's
Nice.
about to turn 6 in a month or so.
Nice.
And yeah, but the three of us were just this is happy little family.
Yeah.
Yeah, then maybe from like a professional career kind of view. Let's start. It's already been like too long ago, but I used to study. Well, I studied computer science at the Delft University of Technology. I got a bachelor's degree from there, and there they really focused on kind of the principles and the ideas behind everything that's going on. So everything from like assembly to, at the time, Java databases, lots of math and algorithms, and even some functional programming with, like, I think Haskell it was called, the language.
Yeah.
But really focused on like how do things actually work, instead of, hey, we're gonna teach you to be a Java programmer.
Hmm.
But the idea that if you understand the concepts, you'll be able to easily pick up like specific languages and kind of
Yeah.
try to put them in perspective. Then after my bachelor's, I had a little bit of a, well, don't want to say detour, but I spent 2 years abroad doing voluntary work. So I lived in
Nice.
Moscow, Russia for 2 years, volunteering for my church. And then when
Nice.
I came back, yeah, I was like, well, I can continue like doing a master's, but didn't really
Hmm.
feel like it. Also, met my wife before that time, so we were also like thinking of starting this family. And it's like, well,
Sure.
then having a job is like more convenient than having two students like trying to make ends
Yeah,
meet.
of course. Yeah.
So I started to look around, and like really the IT world, it has so many like roles and names and things, and I was like completely unaware of what it actually meant. So I figured, well, let me start at a very big company, so then I can like
Yeah.
get a first-hand view of what it actually means, and
Hmm.
then try to figure out where to go next. So I really thought that I would become a project manager, because I really like just working with people, fixing stuff, getting things
Yeah.
organized, solving problems.
Hmm.
Well, quick spoiler. In the end, I decided not to, because I got sick and tired of like all the Excel spreadsheet management and stuff that
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
to take care of. And then I found this like architecture or team leading
Hmm.
path that was like, it had a lot in common, but besides
Hmm.
all the Excel and administrative
Yeah.
stuff, you have like more of the content, like technical
Yeah.
parts. So that's, yeah, fitted me way more.
Hmm.
So I yeah, joined Capgemini. It's like one of the biggest consultancy
Very well
companies
known.
in the
Yes.
world. I
Yeah.
think a very well-known name. And there they saw my profile, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we have another Java programmer." And
Yeah. Yeah.
well, guys, yeah, I'm sorry to
Yeah.
disappoint you, but
Yeah.
I don't like, personally. I get really enthusiastic about the impact you make with the software that you
Hmm.
build, and not so much like by the act of programming. So it's
Yeah.
really a means to an end.
Yeah.
So then they heard my story and like, well, we have this like BPM kind of department. They were working with Pegasystems and I
Yeah.
think another BPM tool from the
Yeah.
Netherlands, informed at the time. And then they were just scratching the surface with Mendix. I think one of the very well-known local
Yes.
platforms.
Yeah.
And I was actually, I think the second. I think there was one guy before me, like a couple of months that had this the training with Mendix.
Yeah.
But I came in like after my onboarding. I was basically put on a Mendix training with two other guys that just started. So completely
Yeah.
green, just out of school, like
Yeah.
no experience at all. And then we were at this at Mendix at the time. Like this is like 12 years ago.
Wow.
So I remember they were like in this kind of crappy building that they I
Yeah.
think they
Yeah.
rented for very cheaply. Kind of, oh man, how do you say that in English? Like so, it's like a vacant building that you
Yeah.
keep a
Okay.
tenant in to kind of make sure that it doesn't get like destroyed.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
really the feel of the
Yeah.
company, like lots of very young people trying to conquer the world. So you could
Yeah.
really feel this energy that they were like
Yeah.
building
Yeah.
something, but
Yeah.
by far not kind of the very well-known professional
Yeah.
organization with a very
Mm.
slick office that they
Mm.
have right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there I found myself kind of in the attic with this small group of people being educated how to make how to develop in Mendix.
Mm.
And I got really enthusiastic about it because like this platform enabled me to build software without having to worry about so much of all the like the boilerplating code and the
Yeah.
nitty-gritty details. And by just like typing and dragging and dropping a few things, like within minutes I had like the first screens up and running.
Mm.
So that really got me enthusiastic. We'll touch upon that probably later because there's
Yeah.
so many
Yes.
stories to tell about
Yeah.
that
Of
period.
course.
But then I will just like continue to speak for the next hour.
Sure.
Uh, so yeah, worked for about 4 years at Capgemini, where we like really just started this
Mm.
this Mendix department basically. And after about 4 years, we were there with I think like 60 people in total. I think 20
Mm.
people maintaining applications, around 40 to actually
Yeah.
build them. I've done like so many different roles from junior developer to I think at the time when I left, I was in like a multi-million project where
Wow.
I think somewhere between 20 to 30 people were like all working to build this software
Yeah.
system. Very complex, very in retrospect not suitable for the technology we were using. So
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
really pushing the limits.
Mm.
Very challenging. Learned a whole lot, but challenging. Let's keep it to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine.
And there was kind of the architect and tech lead kind of between everything that happened on our end with like two teams developing with the developers, testers, tech leads, and the customer with the business
Mm.
analyst and the product owner, etc.
Yeah.
And in those 4 years, and this is where OutSystems comes into play. We
Mm.
once in a while like heard about this crazy company from Portugal called
Yeah.
OutSystems. And even we lost a project here and there from a
Yeah.
company that was using this technology. So that got
Yeah.
me curious.
Yeah.
And then by the end of my time at Capgemini, the opportunity came by to do a training in OutSystems, and it got me really curious. So like I really
Mm.
made sure I was on the list of people to do the
Yeah.
training. Actually, it was in Rotterdam with Miguel Melo. He's I think he was within like the first 10 or 20 people that joined OutSystems. So he was
Yeah.
really very knowledgeable, and he was like
Yeah.
flying all over the world training people, telling them how
Mm.
OutSystems was. I actually got an email from him, I think yesterday, where he was going through his Google Drive and he like found
Yeah.
the spreadsheet with the progress of the course.
Oh, wow.
It was actually fun to see like a trip down
Yeah.
memory lane.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
Definitely.
I'm about to celebrate my like 8th anniversary with OutSystems
Amazing.
in a couple of weeks or so.
Yeah.
So I got really enthusiastic
Mm.
with OutSystems as a technology and a platform as well. I think with like many of the technologies, when you know and like when you use it for a while, you know all
Mm.
the strengths, but also
Yeah.
like you have some of the frustrations of things that like
Yes.
you think should work differently. And
Yeah.
that was me like at this spot, having used Mendix for 4 years, like
Mm.
awesome, but like yeah, this should be different, and why
Mm.
don't they do
Mm.
it like this, or I don't have much freedom here. And then I found myself with this platform that like solved all those frustrations that I had
Yeah.
with Mendix. Now, 8 years down the lane, I can also say that there's some frustrations I
Other
have. How to,
frustrations. Yeah. I thought
like
so.
no technology is perfect,
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
and it's really about finding out, how to utilize the
Mm.
technology, how to put it to best use. Um, So yeah, left Capgemini. My former manager, she left Capgemini, started at a Dutch company called Conclusion. At the time, I think they consisted of like somewhere around 15 different
Mm.
companies, and she was starting her own company within that bigger ecosystem.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I must have done something great because she hired me again. So she
Yeah.
hired me at Capgemini, she hired me again at
Yeah. Yeah.
Conclusion. And there, like, we really had this idea to start a company focused on more of low code as
Yeah.
a concept, as
Yeah.
like a flavor of technologies,
Mm. Mm.
instead of picking only OutSystems or only Mendix. But
Sure.
obviously, we had a lot of experience with Mendix, and like
Yeah.
we're just scratching the surface with OutSystems.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that has been like very much fun, like a lot of fun. Like, so our idea was like, well, we found a lot of customers, then they would either be talked or targeted by like the sales guys from either OutSystems
Yes.
or Mendix, and they were
Yeah.
starting up their investigations, and then they found out that there was this other platform as well that looked very similar. And
Yeah.
in the end, like many of our customers would always compare OutSystems versus Mendix.
Yeah.
It's two of the like the biggest platforms. Sometimes like there
Mm.
was maybe this Salesforce or ServiceNow
Yeah.
or Power App,
Mm.
or there
Yeah.
was, but like as a like the um like as a pattern, you would always see
Yeah.
those two. So
Yeah.
we figured out like, well, let's just use both. Then we
Yeah.
can like advise our customers and say, hey, well, we don't care whatever you pick. We're like completely objective. We
Mm.
don't care. We'll
Mm.
help you with anyone,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
any platform you choose. Well, also in retrospect, I think that was like I think a bit more challenging than I thought it was gonna
Yeah.
be at first. Like working with two like very fierce competitors.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
yeah, that proved to be challenging, to be honest.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, lots of fun, I think. So like again, like my career has been going in these like steps of 4 years so far.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
4 years also spent at Conclusion, build up the company from, yeah, I think when I joined we were like 4 or 5 people. When I left, like 35, 40-ish,
Wow.
something around that direction.
Mm.
And then yeah, I think this is like 2018. I was at the airport in Lisbon, going back home from the first OutSystems developer conference,
Yeah.
and they were handing out these like little Neo dolls. And I
Ah.
think
Yeah.
at the time my son was about, I think like one and a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I figured, well, let's bring him the doll. Maybe he would.
Yeah.
I had
I've
so
got
much.
one here next to me on the desk.
Yeah, it's like right across from me in the room as well.
Yeah.
I have one at
Yeah.
home laying around somewhere.
Yeah.
In the end, he didn't like play with it at all. He was a little bit. I know. So I was there. It didn't fit in my suitcase anymore, so I had it like
Mm.
stuffed in my
Yeah.
like the pocket of my
Pocket.
jacket.
Yeah.
And then I was the like in line, and this like guy behind me like started talking like, "Hey, did you go to the OutSystems conference?" I'm like, well, yeah, duh. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Silly
uh,
question.
so we had a very like
Yeah.
a pleasant
Yeah.
conversation waiting in line to board the plane, where I like shared my background and
Yeah.
like how I experienced the market, and
Yeah.
so I had like a very good conversation. Then a couple of months down the lane, I got a message from this guy called Vincent, one of the founders of Team Resilience.
Mm.
Like, hey, Kilian, we are starting this new company, and we're really, like, we would be very curious to see like your feedback to our business plan, and would you like
Yeah.
be open to think and just to have a chat about that.
Mm-hmm.
And no, well, without sounding arrogant, but at the time I was like receiving and still like a lot of people like,
I
hey, we
could
want to start
imagine. Yeah.
Farban,
Yeah.
can you work
Yeah.
for us, can you do it? And yeah, I wasn't really interested in this, so I turned down lots of those requests. But this
Yeah.
one's like,
Yeah.
I've seen the guy, I talked to him in person,
Yeah.
so why not? Uh,
Mm.
and then yeah, there I found myself talking about their business plans, and really
Yeah.
got enthusiastic about kind of their ideas, their vision, the
Mm.
background of how they want to start this company. So after I think a couple of months having lots of conversations, I yeah, decided to join Team Resilience.
Yeah.
And again, so 4 years Capgemini, 4 years Conclusion. I'm saying always that I'm now about to have my fourth anniversary at Team
Yeah.
Resilience as well, so people start to get nervous.
They're a bit worried. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm planning to stick around for a bit longer.
That's good.
So I joined Team Resilience again. I think we were there with like 4 or 5 people, without
Mm.
like lots of developers, no customers, like really
Yeah.
trying to build a company, yeah, from the ground up.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, lots of fun to be part of that. Like Capgemini was a very big corporate.
Mm.
Conclusion was like, it was a company, but within like a bigger company where lots
Yeah.
of stuff were like actually already arranged, and now
Yeah.
like it was really from the ground up. So like they were very, like the founders were very experienced IT guys, but it was also
Yeah.
their first company. So we
Yeah.
had to
Proper
figure out
startup
a lot
too.
of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really a
Yeah.
startup.
Yeah.
Um, and I really had this idea like, hey guys, I want to be the CTO of this company. So I
Mm,
was
mm,
hired to be a tech lead, but I
mm.
really shared like, yeah, I've done this tech lead thing for the past couple of years now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for me, my like personal growth, I don't think
Yeah.
that's gonna be like the path for me.
Mm.
But they're like, well, let's like first spend some time together to see if it actually fits, if it
Yeah.
matches, if there's a connection. So in the end, I ended up to become the CTO, to like really leading our all of our OutSystems initiatives. And right now,
Mm.
I'm one of the managing partners of Team Resilience.
Yeah.
Responsible. One of my responsibilities is leading the OutSystems service line. So I think we have like 30 plus developers, tech leads,
Mm.
architects, where we help and support all of our customers. So it's been a hell of a ride, but
Yeah.
very, very much fun, and really enjoyed every second of it.
Yeah. It's been a great it's a great journey for sure. Going back to what you've said so far, and obviously when you started, you said there was you and a few other people who did the Mendix training. At the time, how kind of mature was Mendix kind of in the Netherlands market? Was there lots of developers around that you could kind of look at and see? Because obviously when you're starting, we find even now, when you're starting with a new technology, you will kind of maybe do some research and say, is there a lot of jobs in this skill set? Is there a lot of
Mhm.
developers already in this skill set? What was it like? Because obviously that's a long time ago that you did it, you know?
Oh yeah, like the training was the end of 2011.
Yeah,
Uh,
very long time. Yeah,
I think the company started somewhere. I think it was 2005 or something. So
yeah,
Mendix, the company was like
yeah,
was
yeah,
around for quite a few years,
yeah.
but yeah, in our reality in the market, it was very unknown. Like not a
Mm,
whole lot of developers, not a whole lot of
mm,
partners. There were a few,
mm,
but it was still like very very early stage. Also in terms of market, like when you uh, um, we're trying to sell a project with this technology. Like we really
yeah,
were at the stage where we had to evangelize it. So really, like
yeah,
prove, convince people, tell
mm,
them that it was actually true. So we've
yeah,
had
yeah,
these conversations like how can it be that your proposal is like, I don't know, a third or a quarter of our nearest competitor that's like
yeah,
doing it with traditional technology.
yeah, yeah,
And this can never be secure, and it can never be safe, and it can never perform, and like all of those objections, they were definitely
mm,
there for like the first years of my
mm,
Mendix career.
yeah. And with Capgemini and the Mendix side, had they chosen only to focus on Mendix? Had they not even kind of considered out systems at the time, or
Yeah, well, I think how it went is that like
mm.
a former Capgemini employee, I think he became one of the partner managers at Mendix. So he had his
Okay,
network, and he was like really
fine,
trying
okay,
to
yeah, I got you,
make
yeah.
this grow and work within Capgemini.
Mm, mm,
And
mm,
also there was like I think a couple of people within the organization to really like that saw the potential of this platform.
yeah,
So they also invested heavily in like growing this, and also like from a market perspective there was one, but also from an economic perspective there was another
mm,
interesting thing. So this was like really in the high times of the like the economic crisis at the
yeah,
time, with like the banks going
yeah,
and the housing market being crazy. So
mm,
lots of costs were being cut
yeah,
everywhere around us. But so that was challenging. But I think
yeah,
on the other hand, it was also like a very big opportunity for us.
yeah,
So
yeah,
here we
yeah,
were with this new technology, telling people like, "Hey, so you really have a tight budget, but if you spend it with us, you can do like 3 or 4 or 5 times as much as you thought you
yeah,
would be able to do."
yeah,
So it was
yeah,
challenging, but on the other hand,
mm,
I think it was actually a very big opportunity because people
yeah.
were like really strictly looking at, "Hey, I only have a few amount of euros to spend, so where am I gonna push this money?"
Yeah, 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 of course, of course. And then when you kind of, came across the out system side of things and you did the training, was it after the training you kind of decided in your mind? I know you went to conclusion and your old boss kind of brought you over there.
Yeah.
But was it you kind of, you said you were offering kind of services in both. Was your boss aware about systems in to the depth you were, or was it more you pushing that and driving that?
I think a little bit of both. It's actually
Mm,
quite interesting. So when I like had the interviews or first conversations, I really had this like idea that I wanted to pitch. Like, hey,
yeah,
I think we should not only focus on Mendix, but wouldn't it be cool if we
yeah,
also were to include OutSystems? And
yeah,
like during the conversation, we kind of naturally touched those points. So I didn't really
yeah,
feel that I had to pitch them.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Quite naturally, we touched upon that.
Mm,
But yeah, like she knew the market as well, and I
yeah.
knew what OutSystems was. I think we had some conversations. Like
Mm,
obviously, well, she wasn't the technical part of the company,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so that was my job. But yeah, she was definitely very much aware of the market
Mm,
and yeah, the opportunities.
yeah. And you said obviously being a company that offered two solutions, two big competitors, there was some kind of it wasn't as easy as you think it would be. What were some of the challenges you found?
Well, I think on one hand, I'm not going to be very elaborate on that, but
Yeah.
working with the both vendors
Okay.
was challenging at the time.
Mm, yeah.
Um, I think like primarily on the sales side. So there's a lot of
Okay.
potential trust issues
Yeah. Fair enough.
involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's not go that route, but you can imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also with customers. So we really
Mm,
felt like, hey, we are very technical, capable people. We know Mendix
mm,
very well. Like
yeah.
outcomes isn't gonna be that different. Like the whole
Mm,
philosophy of modeling an application versus like building it with code, those
mm,
things are all very much similar.
mm,
So we figured like, yeah, how hard can it be to convince a customer that, hey, we have 4 or 5 years of experience
yeah.
with Mendix, like we are
Mm,
making the jump to do OutSystems as
yeah.
well.
Yeah.
That's not going to be an issue. But also, I think
Yeah.
in yeah, looking back, that was a little bit more difficult than
Yeah.
hoped or
Yeah.
anticipated.
Yeah.
And so also it was like a little bit of a funny time. So we had a couple of like young people join us that were like
Mm,
doing their first OutSystems boot camps and stuff.
yeah.
And in all reality, I didn't have like much more knowledge or experience than them
Then
with the
them.
boot camp.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I was there to like coach
Yeah.
them and help them and support them. But then I think like your like more generic technical background
Mm,
comes into play. So
yeah.
I always felt myself as long as I was able to like with a few Google searches
Yeah. Yeah.
and quickly scanning a page be able to explain them how things were supposed to
Yeah.
work, then
Yeah.
I was always a little bit ahead.
Yeah.
But
Ahead.
yeah,
Yeah.
we were still like building that, learning ourselves
Mm,
as
mm.
well.
How did you find like the transition from Mendix to OutSystems? Did you find it quite easy?
If yeah, for me it was.
Mm,
Um, because I think like well what I touched upon in the introduction as well, like
mm,
from an educational perspective, they've really like trained me in
mm.
kind of the constructs, the patterns behind the technology. So that's
Yeah.
also why I was able to like quickly pick up Mendix, because in my
Yeah.
mind I could see, okay, if I drag and drop this box on my screen, this is
Mm,
what's going to happen in the background. And the same
yeah.
thing without systems, like the paradigms at the time were a little bit different.
Mm, mm,
But yeah, like I think like the introduction training that you have right now and the ones you had
mm.
at the time, they were very, very well made. So they guide you through all the basics that you need to get
Yeah.
started.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've done my fair share. So even before my education in Delft, I've done like lots of web development as a hobby. Uh,
Mm,
so the
mm.
whole idea of like building a web application, like all of those things were already like very familiar to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like really, oh, so yeah, I need to do an HX refresh here to refresh something on my screen. Like for me, it was really okay. So I need to press this button and click these two things, and then this is what's gonna happen. So it's really like
Mm,
learning where things are. Then like, oh,
yeah.
this is so different or out of the ordinary. I need to start from scratch. So, yeah, I
Mm,
think I was able to to quickly catch up and pick up on the technology, and I
yeah.
also believe that everyone with a developer background and with this
Mm,
understanding would be able to quite quickly
yeah.
even master those platforms. Of course, there's lots of, I would say, quirks and things and like
Mm,
specifics about the platform, but like
yeah.
the generic parts of, hey, how do you build a screen? How do you build a data
Mm,
model? How do you model some logic? Like lots of those things, you just need to know kind of, oh,
yeah.
this round thingy in OutSystems is called the server action. That's the part
Yeah.
where I put my logic. Like, okay,
Yeah.
then I know where it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you when you said kind of when you were with Mendix, obviously there's some projects that OutSystems would win, things like that in that period. And I hear this a lot, that usually it's kind of them two at the top, and then there's the other ones around.
Yeah.
Did you ever explore any of the other platforms and think of, let me look into some other platforms as well that might in the future catch up, or be on that playing field?
Not really,
No,
to be
no,
very
yeah,
honest.
yeah.
And also like looking at the analyst reports and those kind of
Mm,
things, like you could
mm.
definitely always see that these were like the two
On the
biggest
top
vendors,
right, yeah, yeah.
like most professional, most elaborate in terms of like basically the depth and the breadth of both of those
Mm,
platforms was like by far the best.
yeah.
Then at the time, like I mentioned before, like you had some companies that were also considered to be in this low code space, like
Mm,
Salesforce or
yeah,
ServiceNow or some of the Microsoft technology. But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
quite often, those were like all like platforms that kind of came along with something else. So if you had a Salesforce and you were doing that,
Mm,
then yeah, you could obviously use Lightning
yeah, yeah,
and stuff.
yeah,
But
yeah.
really, kind of the idea of a sort of, well, or call it vendor agnostic
Mm,
generic software development
yeah.
platform, yeah, I think those were like definitely the two biggest
Mm,
well-known names.
mm,
Uh,
yeah. Okay. And when Vincent contacted you about so you said you knew him from before, you'd spoken to him before.
yeah,
So
yeah, at the
how
airport
did
in
you know
Lisbon.
of him from before?
I only talked to him at the airport in
Oh,
Lisbon.
so he was the one from the airport.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. That's quite cool then. And so their focus was on purely OutSystems. So for you it was kind of leaving Mendix, because obviously you'd been doing hybrid, kind of bit of both.
Yeah.
How was your kind of thought process around, okay, well, I'm just gonna leave this one behind and move on with OutSystems? Were you kind of already uh kind of, all in for OutSystems by then?
No, definitely not. And
Yeah.
this might sound weird, but I might not even be at this point in time.
Okay, okay, that's good to
I
know.
would say don't tell the OutSystems guys,
Yeah.
but no, for me, definitely
Yeah.
the move was like very much focused and motivated by the business opportunity that I
Mm,
saw.
yeah.
So it had nothing to do with technology. I still,
Mm,
up to today, believe that Mendix is definitely a very awesome platform.
yeah.
And OutSystems, well, there are some differences, and also I
Yeah.
think that there are some areas where like one or the other is a little
Mm,
bit better. But
mm,
in general, like they have a very much a lot of like in common, and I think they're
yeah.
both very awesome technology.
Yeah.
So for me, it was more like if I looked at the market, and especially in the Netherlands at the time, and also
Mm,
feel that in the Netherlands we've always been kind of a front runner in the low code market.
yes,
With
definitely.
Mendix here, kind of driving that
Yeah.
change from the Netherlands, but also OutSystems made the
Yeah.
move from
Yeah.
Portugal to the Netherlands quite early. Also, I
Yeah.
think motivated by this fact that Mendix was here.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we've always been very like ahead of the curve, basically here.
Mm,
And then I looked at the ecosystem, and Mendix had like a whole lot of partners that I knew
mm,
very well from my background.
mm,
Also, very well, like a lot that I like in size, they were good, but also like the quality and the professionalism within those partners
mm,
was very good and very, yeah, like established.
yeah.
And then if I looked at the OutSystems landscape, well, let's put it like this: I definitely saw that there was like room for a new entrant in the market.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think there was like a better and bigger opportunity there
Mm,
to shake things up, to come up
yeah.
with a new company that's
Mm,
doing things a little bit differently.
yeah.
And so really like that motivation of the business opportunity and also the position I could be like playing within the company,
Mm,
uh,
mm,
like definitely I think were the biggest motivations to make the change. And it was kind of a rough and a weird change as well, because at the
yeah.
time, Mendix World, like they have this yearly conference
Yes. Yep.
that they do, and like I knew I was talking at the conference. This was like I think somewhere the second or third, like somewhere around this time, like
Okay.
the 20th of April, something like
Yeah.
that. And I would be joining Team Resilience the 1st of May.
Wow.
But so at this conference, it was like in Ahoy in Rotterdam, like a very big
Mm,
conference thing, like I don't know, a huge screen. And
yeah.
there during the keynote of the CTO, Johan den Haan, like my face was on screen, like,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
at one of the Mendix MVPs.
Yeah.
he's doing such an amazing job. And then I was there in the room, I was like, yeah, I'm about to tell you guys that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll be joining the enemy.
Yeah, exactly. You should have put that up on the screen.
Oh, no, but so we
Yeah,
decided not to kind of tell
yeah,
them until after the conference, because we
sure.
didn't want it to be distracting in any way.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Also with my own presentations, and yeah,
Mm,
I think the guy in charge of the MVP program, he also took it very well and was very
mm,
understanding and
mm,
very well, not okay. Of course, he was sad that I
yeah,
would be leaving, but I
yeah,
think he took it very professional. But yeah, it was a bit of a weird move to move
mm,
as a Mendix MVP to
yeah,
like
yeah,
leave Mendix behind and start
yeah,
working with the
yeah,
not with the enemy, but or like with
yeah,
their biggest competitor.
yeah. I think the good thing about that is though, like your motivation was more the journey of the company, and
Definitely.
like you said, and that's kind of, you obviously had a goal that you wanted to get. Like you said, you came in and you wanted to be a CTO, so
Yeah.
you had a goal, and it's great to hear that you achieved that. But so the move was definitely a good move.
Yeah,
Even though
yeah.
you left,
It's always
that.
been my dream to kind of have or start a company of my own, and that might
Mm,
still even happen somewhere in the
mm,
future. I
mm.
always joke with friends that it's not a question of if but when.
When, yeah,
And also
yeah,
then
yeah,
if I think of the next paperclip or something, and I think,
mm,
oh, this could be amazing, then I
yeah,
might still pursue that dream and like start
yeah,
something of
yeah,
my own.
mm,
That might still happen, but definitely like this journey with Team Resilience is, I think, about the closest thing I could get. Like
yeah, yeah,
I didn't start it myself. Vincent, Frank, and Marcel,
mm,
they had the business plan. They
mm,
also like put a lot of their effort, their money in to get it all
yeah, yeah,
started.
of course,
But I was like one of the first, so not the first to.
yeah,
There was one guy before me, Marco,
yeah.
that kind of who jumped on the train and became part of the journey.
Yeah, 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 and that's it. I think it's always a great experience to join it from the beginning, even if you're not the founder. It still feels like your own because you've been
Oh
involved
yeah,
in a
definitely.
lot of kind of that process of up and down. And um, it's 2018. Was it founded? 18,
2019, like
2019. Yeah, yeah,
January 1st,
yeah.
2019.
Because we founded in 18, and I remember seeing Team Resilience far, not long after. And
Yeah.
obviously, as a company, we track all the OutSystems companies, and I thought, who are these guys? And then if you look at it now, just the growth in
Oh
the
yeah.
last 3 4 years has been crazy. It's a really good growth. It's a really, um, you see a lot on LinkedIn, like kind of, good things said about the company as
Hmm.
well, which is really good to see. Going back to something you just touched on before about obviously
Sure.
both platforms having good things and bad things. I won't tell you to highlight the bad things, but with your experience with kind of both of them,
Hmm.
what were certain things with each platform that you thought kind of really kind of set them apart and really made was an advantage for them?
Um, let me think about that for a second. I usually kind of answer this question by going back to the kind of the strategy and the
Yeah.
foundation of those companies.
Mm.
And maybe some of the nuances in this story might be wrong or off, but I think
Yeah.
they will illustrate kind of the story and the differences.
Mm.
So let me start with the kind of how OutSystems was started. And I think this was actually a story that was shared by Paulo Rosado himself
Mm.
at the ODC conference in
Yeah.
2018 when I was
Yeah.
there. So he was really talking. I think there was this slide on the screen with a sort of a graph where you saw like a line going up, and like you saw the growth kind of slowing down, and then in the end it
Mm.
was even going down.
Yeah.
And then this story was like, well, with software, like you start building it, you go fast, but sometimes at some point in time, maybe people have left or there's updates to be made, so it becomes
Mm.
more and more difficult to kind of keep this agility and pace like you were like when you just
Yeah.
started. And then in the end, over time, like things usually like have a tendency to break down until it really becomes legacy, and you need to throw it away and
Yeah.
start all over again.
Yeah.
So like OutSystems was founded with this idea of, hey, how can we make sure to kind of that you keep up this pace throughout
Mm.
like all the years of
Yeah.
development. And with that, it was really also a company kind of by IT professionals or techies or nerds, however you want to
Yes.
call them,
Yeah.
but for themselves. So it was really
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
how can we make our own work better, faster, smarter?
Yeah.
So how can we really like establish and promote all these IT capabilities
Mm.
to kind of keep going as fast as you went like when you first started on your first day. So from IT for IT, I think that's the summary.
Yeah.
That then if you look at the Mendix story, and I said this might not be 100% accurate historically, but I think it illustrates it well. So one of the founders, like he did like an IT education, started his own company, had his first project with a customer. He built some software, put it in production, and like the customer called him like, "Hey, Roald, yeah, it's not working." And then I imagine like the guy looking in all the consoles and the servers and the logs, and like, no, like everything is working fine. Like I don't see anything wrong. And then the guy was like, "Hey, great that the server is running and you don't see any exceptions and errors and whatever, but like I can't use it. It's not really solving my problem."
Yeah.
And there he was like, "Ooh, like how could this have happened? Like I'm a smart guy. I did like a university study, and then how could I have completely missed this?" And so I think he even like also did kind of a more like business focused study, and also from that I think with his brother and another founder Roald, and also Derek, with the three of them, so Roald, Dirk-Jan, and Derek, they started this company called Mendix to kind of to mend. That's part of the name, to mend business and IT. So how can we bring both business and IT together, to have them collaborate more, to make sure that we don't build things from an IT side that the business can use, and how can we make kind of IT more accessible to the business. So with that philosophy, they started the platform and the company as it is today. And if you keep those things in the back of your mind, you can see certain choices being made. So with Mendix, again, this might not be 100% accurate, but if you kind of generalize it, as soon as things become complicated or technical, they try to solve it automatically for you, or they build a sort of wizard, or they make it kind of as easy as possible. But also with that, they're usually taking some freedom out of the hands of the developer. With OutSystems, they take another approach. So they try to make it as fast and easy as possible for the developer to get it done. I think that let's put in like a very concrete example here. So if you look at mobile and offline synchronization, like Mendix is like, oh yeah, well, offline data, it will just sync. We take care of it. You don't have any like kind of freedom. Maybe you can say, well, sync now, but that's about as far as you can go. With OutSystems, to say, hey, like syncing data, it's up to you. You are the developer. You can make the choices of how you want to do it, where you want to do it, how to most optimal do it. And by the way, here are some like 4 or 5 default patterns that we usually see, which you can generate in the code quite quickly, but you have complete freedom to like customize them and adjust them to your needs. And there you see already like a little bit of those differences. In the end, most common cases, both approaches will work just as fine. But you were asking about kind of the strengths. I think Mendix for the like smaller and medium-sized, or both in size and also complexity apps, I think I still believe that you can like develop those quicker and faster with Mendix. Also, given that you are okay with a little bit more constraints. On the other hand, like OutSystems gives you a little bit more, or maybe much more, you can debate that, but more like flexibility and depth where you can like control what's going on. So especially with the like larger, very complex, very dynamic applications, that's where you will hit the wall earlier with Mendix, and with OutSystems you're able to like push it a little bit further and make more like robust applications. I think that's like definitely still one of the strengths of both and the differences. I think like going back in time, I think mobile with OutSystems was a huge change. I think it was 2016 or something, where I was at the conference in Lisbon where they launched it, and at the time they were like, for me, really years ahead of Mendix of the capabilities of mobile development. I think they were doing this demonstration with an app that was supposed to be Facebook, like on stage,
I've heard about this.
getting things. And then at the end of the conference, when they kind of launched this new mobile capabilities, like, oh, by the way, this app you've been looking at, like it wasn't the actual Facebook app, but it was an app like built with OutSystems that 100% resembled the Facebook app.
Wow, that's really impressive. And you know, having kind of left Mendix behind, are you still kind of, do you still kind of, as a techie, just stay up to date with things, releases, play around with it, or have you kind of all put all your eggs in the OutSystems basket?
So yeah, I try to, but
Yeah,
yeah, with also a young family and the
yeah,
role
of
I'm in,
course.
it's really difficult to find the time.
Yeah,
I think a couple of months ago, I did join one of the Mendix meetups at their office, just also to catch up with some former colleagues and to kind of see
yeah,
what was going on. And
yeah.
I usually try to go to the conferences. So if
Mm,
there's going to be a next Mendix World, or I think
yeah.
they have this event where they're going to launch Mendix 10.
Mendix 10, yeah, in June,
Yeah,
isn't it? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So I've signed up for that one.
yeah,
That's my way of kind of keeping up.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
as
yeah.
a side note, I was with this former colleague over the weekend, and he had this
Mm,
very old Mendix application that stopped working. So
yeah,
I think it was like on a Saturday evening, 10 or 11 o'clock.
yeah,
Like, oh yeah,
yeah.
can you help me fix it? And so we touched like we opened up the Mendix Business Modeler again, and yeah, I have to admit that I've gotten a little bit rusty, I think.
Ah, really?
So that was very confronting. That it wasn't
Yeah,
as smooth sailing as I
yeah,
hoped or thought it would be.
yeah, yeah. And moving on to kind of just low code in itself, someone who kind of, has been, using it for very, I'd say longer than, like, there are people who have used it at the same time as you, but majority I would say is the last 5 years.
Mhm.
How, and seeing the way it's evolved, how do you think, obviously there's all these stats and things that come out of how low code will grow and things like
Yeah.
that. What's your kind of personal opinion on low code in general and the future for it?
Yeah, so having been part of this whole change, basically, I could definitely see the market change as well
Mm,
here in the Netherlands. So I think it was somewhere during my time at Conclusion where you saw a pivot from like, hey, we need to actually like actively sell you, convince you
mm,
that low code is really here, is really useful, it's really making a change. To companies waking up, it's like, oh, hey, my competitors are using low code. I should be thinking about this as well. Like,
yeah,
can you tell me more, Kilian? What is this low
yeah,
code about? Like, how am I going to benefit from it?
mm,
So that definitely shifted here in the Netherlands. I think already like 5 6 years ago or something.
mm,
But as I said before, like we were really at the forefront of this whole change. So I think even
yes,
countries around us, I'm talking about Germany, I think, for
mm.
example,
They're
that
very behind. Yeah,
they're very well, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It doesn't sound nice, but indeed,
yeah, yeah,
I think
yeah,
they are behind. So if you look at globally, and of course, I don't have a knowledge of the whole
mm,
globe and how it's being used, but you definitely see like new countries picking up
yeah,
where it's like really exploding and growing a
yeah,
lot. Where all of a sudden you see all kinds of partners and people popping up. Like
mm,
so, I think Asia, for example, now is really like
yes,
really growing fast
yeah,
as a market. And so yeah, personally, well, I'm heavily invested in this whole low code
yeah,
movement anyway.
yeah.
So I'm not sure if I'm going to be the most objective person to talk about it. I personally very strongly believe that like low code has so many like benefits for companies. So as a technology, like not only the speed, like the added speed of development,
Mm,
but also the accessibility of like if I look around, like some of my fellow like team members here at Team Resilience, they didn't have like years and years of IT training, but they
mm,
are like capable OutSystems developers
yeah,
now. So also from like a talent perspective and the
yeah,
huge amount of shortage of like available developers, that's
mm,
also going to make a huge, or it's already making a huge
yeah.
impact. I think that will it will only continue.
And on the back of that, with the kind of shortage and things like that, do you in the Netherlands or even in your own hiring, you know, um, obviously there's not always out systems developers around, especially in
Mhm.
Netherlands. Um, what's the kind of if you're speaking to people from kind of traditional development, um, do you get pushbacks and negative feedback at
Yeah,
times?
it depends, and I always I always feel that's a bit of a like a blood group discussion.
Mm,
So you can pick your two favorite competing football
yeah,
teams or whatever.
yeah,
Like in the Netherlands, it's Ajax and Feyenoord, or
yeah.
I think in Lisbon it's what is it, Benfica and
Benfica and
Sporting.
Sporting, isn't it? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You probably have some around as well.
I've got
Uh,
Arsenal and Spurs. We don't like Spurs.
So it's like this blood group discussion. If you
Yeah.
if you have like if you are a developer that's really fond of being able to touch every single little bit or byte and be able to like
Mm,
manipulate that and have all this development freedom, and also I think you get really like passionate and you get a lot of energy about kind of the act of programming,
mm.
then I think you'll be very much frustrated and annoyed by all kinds of low code platforms.
Yeah, yeah.
But on the other end of the spectrum, if you see like the technology or the programming language you're using more as the means to an end, a way to kind of express your ideas and tasks to put out working software.
Mm,
And also I think a little bit more of a business sense of, hey, um, do we actually need to have all of this freedom? Like, what's the added
mm,
value? What's the benefit for the business to doing it?
mm,
I'm not going to say pixel perfect, but like in this really specific way, or
mm,
would the standard components that a platform like OutSystems offers us also be sufficient?
mm,
So I think that's also a little bit more of a business mindset and the impact you can make for the business as a whole. Then if you have that mindset and approach, I think you were definitely gonna love working with OutSystems and Mendix or other low code
mm.
platforms.
I'm guessing because of also in Netherlands, because of, like you said, OutSystems and Mendix both being quite mature. It's the developer markets, obviously there's a lot more people, obviously when they're looking around they can see a lot more developers, a lot more clients, definitely a lot more kind of
Mhm.
companies like yourselves who
Yeah.
are either focused on one or both. We see a lot of companies these days who, like you said, kind of might try and do both, or
Hmm.
a few, just to kind of say we offer low code,
Yeah.
whatever solution. Um, so I'm assuming that might make probably things easier compared to some countries, like for example the UK, where there's still, not a lot of developers or customers around.
Yeah, but in all reality, I don't see it too often. I think I
Okay.
would have liked to see it more often because I think
Oh.
they can definitely add a lot to the ecosystem.
Mm,
Um, and also, like, although like the technology is, I think, very understandable and accessible,
mm.
I haven't personally met a whole lot of people that are like happy to kind of leave their old ways behind. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, in all reality, I don't see it too often.
Hmm. So, going into my question would be, if, like one question we like to ask everyone is obviously like, for those people who kind of in that category that you don't come across, if you did, what would be your kind of message? You touched on it in the previous question, but your message to them and kind of sell point.
I think, yeah, if you want to make an impact or more impact with the work you do and the software you build, then you should definitely be using low code platforms.
Yeah, that's a good summary actually. Yeah, exactly. And kind of on a personal thing, and a final question, and you've touched on this before as well. You know, um, you've kind of had quite an interesting journey.
Yeah.
You've kind of gone from Mendix to kind of startup, not startup like business, to pure startup, and so kind of aspirations for the future for yourself, which you did touch on. What's
Mhm.
your kind of, obviously for Team Resilience, that's not now, so they know you're
And
going to stay over
maybe I will do
4 years.
another 4 years with Team Resilience. I
Yeah,
accept
so
this
more just your
offer.
personal aspirations.
Well, I think for me it's really kind of, how do you say it, uncharted territory where I'm at right
Mm,
now.
mm,
So far, if you like, well, the stories I've told, I've always
mm.
been in this like from 0 to
Yeah,
40-ish kind of style. So I've been at this point now for the third time in my career.
yeah.
And now I'm really like also learning myself a whole lot of things. Like,
Mm,
so what does it take to kind of build this company from 40 plus people to I don't know how many?
yeah.
And also within Team Resilience, like we were not so much necessarily focused on becoming the biggest. So
Mm,
one of the things we say internally, like we want to be the best and not
yeah,
definitely the biggest,
yeah.
but also had to be attractive and to be a growing organization. Like you will grow quite
Yeah.
natural, and with
Mm,
certain sizes, you become more interesting for certain customers,
mm,
which leads to interesting projects. Which
yeah.
growth for us is kind of a natural thing to keep the energy going, but not so much, hey, we want to be the biggest OutSystems partner or company in the world. But yeah, definitely, I think for me, just like continuing this journey, see and experience what it takes to help grow this company from the 40 plus we are now to I don't know, let's say 100. Not sure when we're gonna get there, but yeah, that's definitely gonna be interesting for me as well.
Yeah, amazing. And I think that's the right attitude of obviously quality over quantity. It's great having loads of staff, but if you're not delivering quality projects, then there won't be much going on really.
Yeah, sure. And that's also one of the things, but this might be a little bit like team resilience promotion, but hey, why not?
Yeah.
I think in terms of culture, we are really like focused on the people. So we always say like people, customer, finance. Like we want to have we want to take care of our people the best we can so that they are like the most happy, developers. We're talking about developers, most of them. So to support them, to give that, to create the projects where they can grow, can learn, do amazing things. And if they're happy, our customers will be happy.
Exactly.
And if our customers are happy, we're gonna have more business. They're gonna like continue like the relationship with them. So really like focused on people, and then the end everything will. Well, of course, there's some hygiene factors that need to be done, but like so far it's been working out very well. And like the customers that we joined working with, like pretty much all of them are still with us. So that also like keeps this energy going. Okay, we're actually making a difference, and continuing this journey. So it's been really amazing.
Amazing. Well, thank you for your time. It was really interesting to speak to and hear your interesting journey. Maybe we'll wait to see what happens in 4 or 5 years or 4 years, see if there's any changes or even down the line. And I think it'd be definitely good to speak again in the future.
Let's
and
do
see how
that.
things have evolved. Hopefully, maybe one day I'll do face-to-face podcasts. Will be a lot more, better.
Oh, that'd be fun. That would be fun.
It'd be
Sign me
great.
up.
It'd be great. Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks for your time, Kilian.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure. And maybe for anyone listening, if you have any like questions or want to have a perspective or just talk about some things, like I'd say, feel free to add me on LinkedIn, and let's connect.
Amazing.
So thanks a
Appreciate
lot
it.
for the invitation, and thanks.
Nice. Thank you.